Hey guys, my name is Brian Crazy. You're watching my brand, that from brand of wrestling, and entertainment here on YouTube.com in the World Wide Web since 2010, providing you with the wrestling news, reviews, rumors, insight that you've grown accustomed to. And you saw the title of this video. I am back with my review and results, TNA Impact Wrestling, the January 3rd, 2013 edition of it. Now, this was the first episode of Impact for the new year, and I thought it was a pretty good night on Impact. My only complaint is that I would have really liked to see a little bit more build towards the Genesis pay-per-view, Genesis only being 10 days away from the airing of this episode of Impact. We started off the show with a recap of the events over the last few weeks, and then we go to the ring. Jeremy Borash is in the ring to announce the 2012 TNA Wrestler of the Year. Robert Roode, Austin Aries, Bully Ray, Jeff Hardy, and James Storm all come out. Jeff Hardy ends up winning this award, and you could really tell the difference between the casual wrestling fans and the internet wrestling fans, because I would assume that the majority of the IWC and YWC would have voted for maybe Robert Roode or Austin Aries, while the casual wrestling fans gravitated towards Jeff Hardy. Now, Jeff Hardy hasn't had an amazing comeback here. He overcame some personal demons. He was able to recapture the TNA World Heavyweight Championship, and shouldn't take anything away from Jeff Hardy. But like I said, you could just really see the difference between the internet fans and the casual wrestling fans. Now, after the award is presented, Roode and Aries end up attacking Hardy, and these two guys can't get along. They can't click. They can't get on the same page, and Jeff Hardy capitalizes. He ends up getting the upper hand and making it away. Now, throughout this whole segment, it is announced that there will be a three-way match at the Genesis pay-per-view. Jeff Hardy will defend the World's Heavyweight title against Robert Roode and Austin Aries. Then we see a video package hyping the return of the Icon Sting a little bit later in the night. In my personal opinion, I think they should have left this open-ended. I don't think most of the IWC or YWC knew who that original 1-3-13 promo was for, and then they revealed it was Sting. They kind of killed the buzz around. Not that wrestling fans aren't happy to see Sting. I love Sting. I love to see Sting anytime he's on my television set, but I really feel like they could have really capitalized on this. They really could have made it a lot bigger if they left it open-ended. Then we go into backstage segment with Kazarian, Daniels, and James Storm. James Storm is basically looking for a fight, and he wants to know if Daniels or Kazarian wants to fight, basically. He ends up spitting in Daniels' drink, and this sets up the next match. It looks like Daniels is going to square off against James Storm, but as Storm has his back turned, Daniels gets out of the ring, and Kazarian attacks from behind. Storm ends up picking up the win in this match. This is a great back-and-forth contest, a lot of false finishes, a lot of great action, and Storm ends up picking up the win in this match when Kazarian attempts to go off the top rope, and Storm hits the last call super kick. Then we go backstage with Mr. Anderson and the Aces and Eights, and Mr. Anderson really hasn't made up his mind yet. Devon's a little accepting of this, but the Doc, the Director of Chaos, the former Luke Gallows in WWE, doesn't want to hear anything of it. He wants his answer, and he wants it tonight. He knows Sting is coming back, and he wants Anderson firmly on their side. And I don't know if any of you guys noticed this, Anderson was holding his beer bottle down by his nether regions, and one of the girls was stroking on it. And, you know what, 3, 4 fine ladies around you, a limited supply of beer, a whole bunch of guys that back you up. What's there really to say no to? What, in the storyline, what has TNA really done for Mr. Anderson in the preceding months? I know every guy has to go out there and forge his own path. He has to make a name for himself, and he has to use whatever opportunity is presented to him to the best of his ability. But in the storyline, what has Mr. Anderson really got? Remember that whole segment with Hulk Hogan a few months ago when Hulk Hogan just really thought he wasn't his man that night, and then the Aces end up attacking him, and, it makes sense. I think the Anderson's introduction to the Aces and Eights definitely makes sense, and I think it gives them a little more star power, some star power that they need. And not that the Aces and Eights isn't made up of great wrestlers. I enjoy the talents that they put together. A lot of people want to call them WWE rejects. They weren't successful in WWE, or they weren't the right fit for WWE. Back in the day, there used to be multiple promotions where you could go around from promotion to promotion, be on television, learn your craft, and become better. Now that WWE is the only game in town, if a wrestler doesn't succeed there, he's automatically a WWE reject. I don't understand the logic in that thinking, and I don't like that thinking personally. Then we go backstage with Kenny King and Kid Cash, and Kenny King is just being cocky to the wrong guy. As you guys know, Kid Cash is a no-nonsense kind of guy, and basically these two guys going back and forth. Kid Cash ends up holding up the peace sign, or saying I was a former 2-time X Division champion, and Kenny King said, "Peace, that's right." And Kid Cash goes, "Well, you only got that half right," meaning, flipping him the bird. Then we go into a recap of the attacks by the Aces and Eights in 2012, and they also further hype the return of Sting tonight. Like I said earlier on in this video, I really wish they left that return open-ended. I wouldn't have been disappointed if it was Sting. Don't get me wrong. But I really wish they left it open-ended. It just would have been so much better for the product, so much more hype surrounding their product. Then we see the Director of Chaos, Doc, come out with his trusty friend, the ball-peen hammer that he took out Sting with. He calls out Sting. We end up seeing Sting's signature bat drop from the rafters. Doc absolutely flips out at this point. And I do have to say, he cuts a great promo. I really like this segment. I like how the segment came off. And I really feel like Doc has a really bright future in TNA wrestling. Like I said just a minute ago, some superstars aren't the right fit for WWE. I think Doc is a perfect fit for TNA wrestling. Then we go into an X Division match. It's about 4 or 5 minutes in length. It's a great contest. I really wish it went a little bit longer, but I was not disappointed. Christian York squared off against Kid Cash, and Christian York was successful. He picked up the win over Kid Cash. Then Hernandez and Morgan are supposed to square off. Hernandez and Chavo end up coming down to the ring. Then Morgan and Joey Ryan end up coming down to the ring. Morgan's got his arm in a sling, saying they got injured weightlifting. And Ryan ends up facing off against Hernandez. Hernandez ends up getting the upper hand on Joey Ryan. This is when the Blueprint takes off that sling. If you guys were noticing at ringside, he takes off the sling, and about a minute later, he ends up jumping in, attacking Hernandez, and leaving him down. Then we go backstage with Angle and Joe, and Bischoff and Briscoe. Joe is pretty adamant that he doesn't need or want the help of Bischoff and Briscoe. Angle says, hey, these are my guys. They've been helping me out. But tonight, it's a steel cage. I don't think anybody can get in. We really don't need your help, guys. You can hang back here. And I think this gave him the perfect opportunity because it's been rumored that not only Briscoe, but Bischoff, Garrett Bischoff, not Eric Bischoff, are members of the Aces and Eights faction. So by Kurt Angle excusing them from being at ringside, it gave them the opportunity to don their masks and be part of that attack that occurred a little bit later on the night. I'll cover that when we get to that segment. Then we go to the ring. Hulk Hogan has Bully Ray and Brooke Hogan come out, and he wants to know exactly what's going on. Bully Ray ends up coming clean. They tell Hogan exactly what's going on, but Hogan says, you know, there's a code. You're supposed to be my brother, and you've been lying to me this whole time. He ends up suspending Bully Ray and basically tells him to get out of his ring. He also tells his daughter to get out of his ring. And you know what? As of late, Hulk Hogan's promos have felt a little stale. Don't get me wrong. I love Hogan. I absolutely love Hulk Hogan, one of my favorite superstars of all time. But last night, Hogan was on fire. I mean, when he has a direction to go, and it isn't just a 2-3 minute promo trying to hype somebody, or he's just kind of rambling. We've seen a lot of those in the past. But when he has a clear-cut direction to go and he's interacting with a superstar at the caliber of a Bully Ray, it was absolute fire, and I really like how this came off. Then we saw Joseph Park down at OVW, and a little bit of a segment with Danny Davis, who's the trainer. He's the head trainer down at OVW, and how Joseph Park has actually started to progress. He is so motivated and so determined to progress, to get that retribution on Aces and Eights, the men that held him hostage going into the Bound for Glory 2012 pay-per-view. And he is starting to gain some actual ability. Now, as you guys know, the Joseph Park character isn't very good in the ring. I mean, he stumbles. He is uncoordinated. And it is just so amazing how Chris Park, Abyss, the same man that portrays Joseph Park, has been able to be so versatile, be the polar opposite. I mean, Abyss and Joseph Park are so far apart, you could go around the world and they would meet on the other side. It is incredible, and I really like how Joseph Park has progressed. I've been a fan of this character since the beginning, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen when he makes his return to Impact Wrestling. Then we go into a phenomenal knockouts. I almost call them divas. That would, almost be insultful to these women. Not that the divas don't have great competitors, but I mean, the knockouts have just made a name for themselves for being some of the toughest females in all of professional wrestling. Miss Tessmacher and Mickie James squared off against Tara and Gail Kim. This was an incredible match. It did not disappoint. Tessmacher and Mickie James were successful. They picked up the win in this contest. Then we go into the Aces and Eights backstage, and they're talking about they need to protect the remaining members of the group that still have their masks on. By any cost, they need to keep those masks on. They say they have Kurt Angle, who's a bionic robot who is damn determined to take off the masks of the members of the Aces and Eights. Then we go into the main event. It is Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle versus Devon and a masked member of the Aces and Eights, who is later revealed to be Mike Knox. But before this match even takes place, Joe and Angle are separated. Joe is confined inside the cage with the two members of Aces and Eights, and Angle is stuck on the outside. He tries to get back into the cage. He tries climbing over. He eventually gets through the door, and then the entire group ends up coming out and attacking these two men. Kurt Angle is left bloodied, and this is where we get the return of the icon Sting. Sting comes in with his signature baseball bat, clears house, and this is how we end Impact Wrestling. Well, excuse me. We see the unveiling of that member of Aces and Eights who was revealed to be Mike Knox, and this is how we end Impact Wrestling. Now, I was glad to see the Stinger return. Like I said, I really wish they left it open-ended. I probably said that probably 4 or 5 times throughout this video so far. And the one thing I didn't really like is Sting. One man with a baseball bat was able to clear out the entire factions of Aces and Eights. Well, I guess when you're inside a steel cage and it has only one entrance, that limits the options of how many guys could run in. If you could go from all sides, they could confine, they could grab the bat, you know. So I guess you could kind of play it off like that. But don't get me wrong. I loved Impact Wrestling. I thought it was a phenomenal show. And the biggest things to come out of the night is the three-way dance for the World's Heavyweight title at the Genesis pay-per-view, Mr. Anderson joining the Aces and Eights, and the unveiling of Mike Knox as a member of the Aces and Eights faction. And I know the internet is currently rumbling that Mike TNA last night dropped the WWE bomb. He said, I know that guy. Taz, you know that guy. He's Mike Knox, formerly of the WWE. But if you guys have noticed, in the last 3-4 months, they've been dropping the WWE bomb a lot. And why not? Why not? These are former WWE superstars. They worked for many years to establish themselves. Now they have to come to TNA and have a fresh slate. Nobody's supposed to know who they are. BS. BS. And I'm a firm believer in that. I want to know your guys' thoughts. I want to know your guys' feedback, and I want you to drop it below. For the effing brand of wrestling and entertainment here on YouTube.com and the World Wide Web, 2013 is going to be a huge year. I want to thank all you guys, my fans and subscribers. Thank you for joining me on this ride, and it is only going to get bigger from here. Drop your comments. Catch you later, and have a safe day.